At the tone, the time will be 26 Railroad.
Test, 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 test,
Test,
test.
test, 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 test. Hello, 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 hello. What? Where? Why?
You there?
There.
Today. I consider
Yeah,
myself,
me.
myself,
My,
myself.
my, my. Me.
Oh, let's see here. Did I get? How do I sound? Do I sound okay? Carlos, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How do I
I can
sound?
hear. You sound marvelous.
Oh, excellent. That's good. All right, cool. I'm using a different microphone here. Let's get.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hearing a lot of feedback.
Are you okay?
I'm hearing you talk to me twice.
Got it. Hang on one second.
I'm being yelled at twice. So it's a good technique. Educate the people twice.
How's that better? You still hearing me twice?
Yeah, I still hear you.
You still hear me twice though?
Yes,
Okay. Let's see here.
yes.
I gotta figure out what I did here. Hang on.
I see there was no. About 10 seconds later,
Yeah, let's see if we can figure that out.
oh boy,
Is it trippy?
this is a high budget production.
Newman.
It's our Jeopardy announcer there. Hi.
All right, Scott, are you hearing me echoing? How do I sound clarity wise? Carlos, are you also logged into Twitch?
Yes.
If you have the Twitch window open, make sure it's muted because that might be where the echo is coming from. Well, no, now Carlos was getting one, but it was like a 10-second delay, which sounds like it might be Twitch.
Okay. Good.
And gentlemen, I am on a headset microphone for two reasons. Number one, I am what you just would describe as spastic in my movements, in that I am constantly moving around. So a fixed microphone is tough for me. And also because I've been doing some Warhammer painting on stream with little tiny miniatures. So like if you're bent over painting, it's not a boom a microphone doesn't really work well. So hopefully the sound is not mixed up at all. You guys let me know if you can't hear me well enough. I did.
Yeah, tell me to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so that solves the music problem. Put
Yeah, I think, and vice versa. I wonder because let's see. Can you hear this?
I hear it. Yep.
Okay, good. All right, hang on a second. Let me just get a few other levels together, folks, and then we'll get started here. Bear with me just a moment. Um, let's see.
Mr. Scott, I'm going to use you today.
Actually, Carlos, that's really funny because I'm glad you mentioned that. You and I were like completely on the same wavelength in terms of how we were thinking about this because when you said I read your emails out of order, there was one email where you were talking about ideas for this episode, and you just like you went like your stream of consciousness was like, okay, so Scott's got his bike, we're doing this, blah blah blah, and then I read another email where you were like. I think we're really. I like this way approach that how we're using Scott as sort of like our guinea pig here,
Yes.
and I was thinking the same thing because it's like it's not you shouldn't take this as us trying to peer pressure you to ride a motorcycle. But what Carlos said, I thought was actually a little bit even more thoughtful, which is, Scott, you are you're kind of every man, right? So even, not you specifically, but you are really, I don't know what, a foil, or, you really are kind of a archetype for every person. And if we were talking to somebody who was thinking about writing, but maybe needed some convincing, you're a perfect kind of candidate. You know what I mean? So it's a great fit.
Right?
Yep. But we're going to put you on the back burner. You're not going to buy, Scott. I'm telling you now. That's $65,000 Ducati.
No.
so let's get this right out of the way. We're going to start with the basics with you, Scott, and you're going to answer them honestly. Okay?
Oh, okay. Are we live?
No, not yet. So hang on, folks. We're gonna get. Let me get situated here. I'm gonna get my mic monitor set up.
How come I don't see a video of you, Jay? Like I see the handsome face of Scott on the Zoom, but I don't see you, Jay.
So this is the challenge we've got to figure out here, which is the using Zoom. Basically, if I add my video to the screen, then the stream output, the show output, would include me twice, because I would be in Zoom as well as my home capture, which I could just take myself out of the home capture. And maybe feed myself through Zoom. So that's one way.
Yeah, you should probably do that in the future. It'd be a heck of a lot easier to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Because we don't see you, and Scott and I really want to make fun of you too in different ways.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and so that's what I have to. I'm kind of I'm spoiled because I'm used to it being in like a multi-monitor setup where I've got 3 different monitors in front of me right now. So I have to try to build this for one self-contained unit, and I appreciate you guys being the guinea pigs. I can do this, so this is. I want you to know that I didn't. I am trying to work on the challenge. So tell me what you think of this. Let's try something here. Bear with me. This is new technology. We're going to experiment here. Hang on. Nope, that's not what we want. And while we get ready to get live here, I will tell you guys that construction has begun on the
man cave.
The man cave, yeah. So as far as it's Sunday, and we shouldn't have any construction activity here, but it turns out we accidentally removed the roof of the of our water heater, which is kind of a problem. So we got to get that fixed. Because it's just kind of sitting outside, and there's no basements, here in California. So
you mean the roof over your water heater?
Yeah. So like.
Okay, you said the roof of your water heater, and I thought maybe you had the world's worst contractor.
No, yeah, no. And to be clear, what do you call it? I can't. 1 second. There we go.
Oh, I hear the echo again.
Oh, echo. Well, he's doing that, Scott. Take a look over my shoulder.
Test.
Mm-hmm.
You guys still hearing me?
Can you see behind my shoulder there?
Any echo, guys?
It sounds better now, Jay.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Scott, take a look.
Yeah.
Oh, the Gray Ghost.
So is that a 3-wheeler?
That is correct.
All right.
So and you'll see there that's my 2017 Tri-Glide. So there with my flags there for various events, and so that's just
cool.
I thought I'd share
like
that
that.
with you.
Yeah, that back seat looks comfortable there.
Oh, you should hear the stereo on that thing too. Oh, there's a lot of things going on in the screen.
Yeah, this was the experiment I was going to try to tell you about here. So let's see if it can.
Oh, I like that.
If we can get it to work.
Well, we're there. It's 46 degrees, partly cloudy here, but really feels like 39 degrees in Flushing, New York.
40 at the tone. The time will be 1:08 p.m. in Denver. Weather is 46 degrees and clear.
Wow.
And if I seem distracted today, it's because in a stunning scheduling ineptitude, Jay put this right on top of the Daytona 500.
Oh,
so
shit. Sorry.
I got it on my iPad below me here. So you're going to have to be more interesting than a 20-car pileup.
Now, wait a second, though. While I did that, can you guys now see? You guys can see that it's on delay, but you should be able to see the Twitch stream in your little window there, right?
Yeah, I can see it in there.
All right, so this is going to be our temporary workaround for episode 4, and in episode 5 we'll come back with a new and different approach. But this is one step forward, where at least you guys can see me and the stuff that we're sharing. And while we're chatting, I'll see if I can make the screen a little bit better for everybody. But I appreciate you guys again. Thank you for being guinea pigs, and thank you for. Oh, hang on one second. My Considine's here. Da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm gonna have to do this all over again. Welcome, Mike Considine, if you're there.
Jay, how about a quick recap of the last show?
Yeah, we'll do that. I want to, Mike, just Carlos and Scott, for your benefit. I invited Mike Considine, another one of our 20th Century All-Stars and standing guests, friends of the family. Mike's a writer. He's joining, or should be joining momentarily. So while Mike joins us, let's go ahead and kick things off, starting at 10 after. So a little bit later than I wanted to be out of the gate. But again, thank you guys for your technical patience. And we can't begin the show without.
As opposed to what kind of patience?
Well, I stress the technical piece of it because I know there's some of us in the call, myself and yourself, for example, here in the show, Scott, who are very, particular about technical things, so to speak. So, you guys hearing the jingle?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, look at that, huh?
Yeah. Hey, how are you?
Mike, welcome.
Well,
Very good, very good.
I don't know. Can you see me?
Not yet.
All right, because I think I can see myself in the little screen on my phone.
Yeah, we might cause like a singularity. The universe collapses in on itself.
There you go.
It's like photocopying a mirror. You can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. We're all, but welcome to the show, Mike. Mike, we got Mike here. We got Carlos. We got Scott. This is episode 4 of Old in the Way. There he is. Look at that.
Hey, there we go.
There you go.
yeah, wow.
Welcome to the high tech.
Yeah, this is what we call budget. I need to hire an intern. I got to find out. There's got to be like a community college like course or like a high school nearby that I can be like, does somebody need credit or something like that? I can whip something up here, make it official. But
I'm waiting for the commercials there, Jay. I'm waiting for those commercials to
Yeah,
flash
true.
across the screen.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
but, so now we got
That's right.
4 different weather reports. So let's start with the San Diego weather report. Take it away there.
64 degrees right now.
At the tone, the time will be 26 Railroad.
It's
There you go.
64 degrees. It's a quarter after noon here in San Diego, and was nice and sunny yesterday, but we're headed back into possibly a little bit of rain. This is winter weather time, and as luck would have it, we tore the front of our house off yesterday as we had our carport like
Intentionally.
yes, intentionally. It's gone, and now like. I think we grossly underestimated the amount of things that we would need to keep somewhere else until the construction was finished. So like everything I own is in the back patio. And I was just mentioning before we started, Mike, before you came on, that Southern California, there's no basements, and water heaters are like usually outside the house, and there's like almost like a little shed kind of thing built around them. It's like attached to the house. You can't see it, but it's like a little hut for your water heater. That was part of the structure that got torn away and is being replaced. And when the addition goes on, the water heater will be inside. But now it's completely outside. And I'm looking at this thing yesterday afternoon after the guys left, and there's like wires and digital stuff everywhere. And I'm like, huh. So like, what happens to this thing if it rains? Is that like okay?
Which
But
reminds me, Jay, today's episode brought to you by Jay's Water Heater.
Yeah,
Jay's
exactly.
Water Heater, not long for this world.
yeah, exactly. It's a nice new one. So yeah. So anyway, the guys are coming back to fix that and put a little bit of a structure over that. But that's what we got going on here. So Carlos, why don't we swing it back over to, we'll say the greater Manhattan or New York City region of New York, because we have 2 New York guests on today. Carlos, you go first.
Okay, here it's at 46 degrees, partly cloudy, and it feels like 39. And it's like I said, it's a little bit on the chilly side, but that's what's going on in Flushing, Queens, New York.
Mike, you are what some people, what people that live near Carlos would call upstate,
Yeah.
and what Mike would not
And what
call
I
upstate.
mid-state.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm mid-state, I guess. Right here, it's 39 degrees, and it feels 39. It's kind of overcast, very overcast.
It looks 39 from what I can see too.
Yeah,
No snow?
yeah. No snow.
Okay.
Are you guys supposed to get snow today?
No, I think it was supposed to. I think it's supposed to rain later, which looks like it will, and it still dips below freezing every night, 30s. But we've only had like an inch and a half this whole winter so far.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in Denver. We just had our 55th inch. for
Holy
the
Christ.
season.
55 inches?
55 is
Yeah.
our annual average, and we haven't gotten to the snowiest 2 months of the year. So I'm pretty darn excited. Carlos, you'll be happy for me. I'm running that snowblower like a champ right now. I'm what you do on a motorcycle, I do on a snowblower.
Mike,
it's an art form.
Well,
Mike, we're gonna have our first spin-off show is gonna be on snowblowers, Mike.
Well,
Toro
Scott,
talk.
Scott, just to add there, Mike is an expert also at blowing the snow out there. So he
All
might
right.
add to that about attaching a snow plow and doing driveways and using a quad to move the snow around. So we could branch out this whole motorcycling bit in 20 different ways.
We're gonna have a whole motorsports family of shows,
That's
but
right.
Scott,
Mike, our running joke here is that I don't ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
I've never driven one. I've ridden on them, but Carlos picked up pretty quickly that I enjoy the snow out here in Denver, and I like the smell and the rumble and the loudness of a snowblower. So that's my only analogy
Yes.
to the world
Well,
of
me-
riding.
Maybe we'll start you with a snowmobile
yeah, exactly.
there we go.
Gas-powered toys.
into a motorcycle.
That
You know?
sounds good.
They look
You know
pretty
what?
fun.
A good segue into that because the concept there about steering and maneuvering and being aware of your surroundings, I think we can apply to that.
Yes,
But,
today's episode is "Don't Be a Squid," and I wanted to ask. Well, I'm on the wrong screen here. I know, Scott. I'm going to guess that you are not familiar with the term squid, but Carlos
No,
and
outside of the oceanographic context,
right,
no.
right. Carlos
in.
and Mike. I'm guessing you probably are, Bill. Yeah, have you guys heard of that phrase? I had only recently heard of this when I started to learn how to ride, so I don't know how ubiquitous it is amongst riders. Have you guys heard of that phrase?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
kind of universal.
Yeah.
Yes, it's pretty universal on that. And to go back to that, so Scott, we have now. This is our fourth show.
Right.
You've been listening to us, and you have been sort of a positive, because we've been giving you ideas, we've been giving you thoughts about. We even had last session about how picking your motorcycle. So let's go with the what if scenario. Let's do a hypothetical, all right, and answer it quickly. If I was going to ask you now, you got some disposable income,
Mhm.
Throw a number at it. You say, you know what? I'm receptive to buying a motorcycle and I got this amount of money. The rest of us, we're going to start filling in those blanks. So think about it. How much you think? You say, you know what? I'd like to give this motorcycle thing a shot. How much money? Throw us a figure.
Yeah, wait,
say-
before you say it, I'm really curious. This is a good question. I've never thought. Go finish. This is a good call.
Not knowing that much about motorcycles, but this is one of those areas where you don't want to go bargain basement. I think it's kind of like getting a vasectomy. You don't go with the lowest bid. So I'm going to go, let's say $5,000. $5,000's like a round number. Or anything more than that, it's like, oh boy, that's a real lot of money. Now $5,000 is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But
Okay.
I could see putting $5,000
Okay.
into something.
So
like that.
our budget right now is about five and under. You would
Sure.
say that. Okay, gentlemen, you hear that? 5,000. Now, my next question to you. Now we're going to start shopping for that bike for you. Now, where or what do you think you'd like to do with that bike?
Well, I live in Colorado. I'd like to ride up in the mountains in the summer, where it's real cold up there, but before the inclement weather hits.
Okay, would it be far? Would it be close?
It would be a couple hours of riding to,
Okay.
it'd be 4 or 5 hours if I wanted to go all the way up into the mountains and all the way back in the same
Would you
day.
say the environment that you ride in is a lot of twisty, curving roads, straight, or is it
Absolutely.
a mixture of
Absolutely.
everything and altitude and obviously at sea level, etc. Going back.
Yeah, I've
and
done it in
forth?
an SUV, and it was a white knuckle ride in the.
Can I interrupt you
snow.
guys for a second here?
Yeah, sure.
I can't load it up, but I sent Carlos a video I found on Instagram earlier this week where it was like a guy riding a dirt bike up a steep hill, and it just got out from underneath him at one point, right? And it just goes up, and then you just watch the bike just just roll. They look like a country mile down this hill flipping, and as it's going down the hill, like the words of like a want ad for a motorcycle for sale are scrolling by, like runs period, good period, dropped once, you know that. But anyway, so go on with your $5,000.
Twists and turns, altitude changes, the whole thing.
Would you consider yourself as what do you perceive yourself? Are you kind of a group person or a solo meditation Zen
No, I'm a solo guy all the way.
Solo guy all the way. All right, gentlemen, you're hearing that,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're talking about a 5,000. Obviously, we're looking about a used ride. Now, we could just start describing the type of rides or the type of bikes that are out there.
Right.
You know, now comes. You've seen a couple of the pictures. Anything that just jumps out to you with any sort of, because does it look sexy? Does it have to?
What appeals to your
practical?
soul?
What appeals to you? Say, you know what? I want to look like the fill in that blank.
Yeah, I've never cared that much about what I look like or how cool it is. So my mind instantly goes to, I'm 6'3", 215 pounds, so it's got to be a decent sized bike, and I want a decent sized gas tank on there, so I don't have to stop and fill up all the time.
Yeah, here, says the Sportster guy.
Mike, how tall are you, Mike?
6'5".
I guessed that last time, 6'5". We were talking about heights in a previous episode,
Okay.
Mike, for seat height. I guess
Must have
6'5".
to go. I have a rider in my contract that I'm the tallest guy.
Mike,
I'll stay seated.
Mike, describe sort of for Scott, because Scott's learning about this. Describe what your ride is, how big it is, and you know what the make and model, just for identification. And how did you arrive at getting that ride?
You mean like my first bike or what I'm riding now?
What you got now?
The bike I have now, I have a Kawasaki Vulcan 1600 Classic,
That's a nice bike.
which is a cruiser. It's a big cruiser.
Okay, 1600, that's the displacement of the engine?
Right.
Okay,
It's
so
the
and that
size of the
sounds
engine.
big to me. Just
Yeah, I mean,
not knowing much other and having no other context, I would just guess it's a pretty big, hefty bike.
probably the biggest engines are going to be like the Goldwing, and there's so probably the biggest engines you'll find on bikes would be around 2,000 cc's.
What kind of bike would you
In that
find that
range.
on, Mike?
You can find it on, I think, Triumphs, some BMWs, like the really big ones,
Yeah.
the touring ones.
I saw something like that today.
The Goldwing. So the 1600 is like kind of a step down of the biggest engine, and then the very common ones are like the 1100 cc's, which are like mid-level cruiser.
What was your first bike there, Mike? Before this
My-
one, what was your
My
first?
first bike that I ever bought after I took the lessons and learned how to ride was a Honda Magna 750.
That's a cool bike.
Yep.
It's a V4.
Really,
It was a fast bike, quick, and I rode the crap out of that bike.
Honda Magnas, if I'm not mistaken, are extremely sought after, and they're like owner loyalty. Like if we talked about different kinds of riders, like
Yep,
Honda
I had
Magna
one.
riders are serious about their motorcycles. There's a guy down the street from me that I've seen a Magna parked out on his front of his house recently. I don't know if he's new here or not, but am I right about that, or am I mistaken?
No, they were very popular when they came out new, and they came in they had a 600, 750, and I think they came out in 1100. It was it was a V30 and a V45. The V45 was the 750.
Yep, that was what I had. The V45.
Yeah.
So-
So I see. I'm a little different than Carlos. I've been riding, I don't know, 25, almost 30 years, 20, somewhere in there, and I've only had 3 bikes. And Carlos has had a lot of bikes. I've only had
11 or
3.
12, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Carlos.
I'm up to my 11th yet.
Yeah, so I've had 3, and I keep my bikes for a long time. So my
Well,
first bike I probably rode for 10, 12 years. My second bike was a little less, like 8, 9 years. and the bike I have now is an '05, so 16, 17 years.
Nice.
And I put a lot of miles on my bike. So, like, this bike I have now is about 40,000. The Shadow I had in the middle was my middle bike. I had a Honda Shadow 1100. I put about 60,000 miles on that bike. And the Magna, it's kind of up for grabs. It was over 20, but the speedometer cable broke for like 3 years. I never replaced it, so I had no speedometer and therefore no mileage.
TMU, true mileage unknown.
Yeah, so that was like a gray area. But I'll tell you what, that bike, I never did anything to that bike. Except the only thing I did wrong, I messed up the carbs because I stored it wrong. Being a new rider, I didn't know what to do.
Storing it?
And I lived in Queens, had no garage, had to park it outside.
Yep.
With a cover, and didn't know about draining the tank, didn't know about a lot of things. So I kind of messed up the carburetors. There was 4 carburetors on that bike. And the bike ran great when I got it for 2 years, and after I messed it up storing it, it ran okay, but it never ran quite the same.
And you had the Vulcan now, that the Cruiser, you said, right? What is them?
Yeah, the classic.
Yeah. There's
that's a fuel injected bike.
What I wanted to ask you, Mike, because I think for Scott, for the purposes with Scott, you guys are just a couple inches different. You're both over 6 feet, and when you found, as far as riding posture, now what the thing is, like you were talking about Scott, he wants to get out there, wants to have an engine that, obviously he's right about that. 1800 cc engine is a bit of an animal for a guy like that who's just starting out. I probably would put him about that 500, 750 to crank up those hills. I mean, guys can jump in on that. But the curious I'm right now is posture. You're a tall guy reaching those foot pegs. Scott's a tall guy too.
Yeah.
What was your transition there?
The Magna was small for me. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was on the smaller side.
That's not what was the engine? What was the engine on Magna?
750.
750 and a posture. Okay.
Yeah, it was okay, but not. I would not have liked to have taken that, and I did take it on long trips. Like I'd gone down Atlantic City, which is like 4.5 hours on the bike. That got kind of stiffening riding down that far. That's why I shifted up to the 1100, much a longer bike, more comfortable. The engine size, same thing. Like, I wouldn't tell anybody to start off with a bike that you're gonna take on the road, probably anything less than a 500 cc.
Yeah, I wish somebody had told me that, because the 250
you're
is
not gonna be able to keep up with traffic.
Yeah.
Going up steep hills and stuff, you're gonna have a problem maintaining your speed.
Dude, trying to do 65, 70 miles an hour on the GSXR 250 I had, and you're hunched over this thing, like leaning forward, and I remember getting up there like 65, 70 miles an hour, and you feel like, and I'm like, this is not fun. I'm scared to death right now, I was telling Carlos.
Could you use that special effects again? Could I hear that again?
Yeah, I gotta get that. Yeah, there it is.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, we need to get a sport bike. I'll have to put a sport bike one on the
I'll
soundboard.
work on that one as your producer, Jay.
Yeah, but I real quick, Mike, on the Vulcan. There's a guy in the riding club, actually a guy and his wife. They're kind of, I mentioned because he's got that. He just bought the Vulcan touring bike, and him and his wife, dude's 19, married. He's a Marine here, stationed in San Diego. His wife on the 650, like whatever the smaller version or the smallest version of that like family of Kawasaki's is, the two of them rode to the Grand Canyon. She rode on the 650, which is not, I mean, it's a small local kind of cruising bike, and they did a Grand Canyon ride, which I thought was a real testament to that bike.
Right. Yeah, you can do it, but it can be stressful.
Yeah,
trying to keep
to your
up with
body.
Traffic and I don't know how it is by you in New York when you're slow.
Yeah.
People hate you and they will cut around you.
Yeah, California is less aggressive. I definitely found that in that way, but there's also there's different. You trade one set of problems for another one, where it's like, whereas in New York, if you were to go slow in the left lane, it's legal to shoot that person. In California, like people, there's every highway has 19 lanes and there's no rhyme or reason about why you go whatever speed. So it's like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Plus there's like random car parts just littered everywhere. But beyond that, it's normal.
Okay, we got Scott on a 750. We'll let's agree that we're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
put
not a bad bike.
a
And you know what?
750.
And I'll tell you the difference in weight does not always belie the engine size in the bike, right? Like sometimes you'll look at it and be like, oh, I got this engine. The bike is like, this engine must be so much heavier because it's a lot bigger. And like the Shadow, the difference in the weight in the Shadow 750 was like 520 pounds, something like that, give or take. And the Shadow 1100 was 550 pounds.
Wow.
So it was only 30 pounds difference for going up from a 750 to an 1100. And your bike, the GSX, the numbers are even less for sport bikes because they try to keep the bikes really light.
Yeah.
It's all
I actually
fiberglass.
looked it up. I was curious. I looked it up for your bike. The GSX 750 was 400 pounds.
Yeah.
Woo.
The 600 is 412 pounds.
Oh,
So it's only 12 pounds heavier.
Yeah. It's
For from a 250 to a 600, and the 750 is 420.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Scott, I don't know like how much of this, like some of this went, a lot of this went over my head. All of it went over my head before I started riding because I don't know if I'm saying this right, Mike and Carlos, but the numbers are not relative, right? So like if you put a 200,
It's deceptive.
yeah, like my
Yes,
my
it
my
is.
Kawasaki was a light bike and it only had a 250 cc engine in it. It still went pretty fast. It was not fast enough to keep up with traffic, but it was really light and small engine versus, you know, my current bike is a 1200 and it's probably only 100 pounds heavier, but it's a hell of a lot more. It's huge compared to the bike that I was on, you know, and it's obviously got a lot more giddy up.
You know,
Yeah.
So
And
so
it's really something you should, when you sit on the bikes, you'll see how it feels.
Scott, how do you test it out, Scott?
yeah, show us, Scott. Wiggle your hips.
Scott,
Oh
how
yeah,
about-
yeah. Well, I straddle the thing and I go left to right between my thighs there and see how it does. Right.
What about
Like
your
ringing
hands?
a bell.
Your hands, the hands are up. Right?
Yeah, you know, actually,
Scott?
so we talked about seat height, right? About being like, so if you've got a 30-inch or higher seat height, and you're a guy that's my height, I'm 5'10". So if you're like between 5'10", 6'2", 6'3", like kind of that mid-level, you know, that 30 plus inch seat range is getting up. I have a 30-inch inseam, right? So anything higher than 30 inches is starting to ride me up a little bit. And in a sports bike, the frame is shifted differently. So at least I think this is technically accurate. The weight is higher, the center of gravity is higher than it is in a cruiser. So on my 1200, which is a heavier, bigger, faster bike, it's 5 inches shorter of a seat height, but in the center of gravity on that big V twin is also a lot lower than the weight in the center of gravity was on my sports bike. So when I wiggle the sports bike back and forth, it felt like if it went a little bit too far, like it wanted to tip. It just wanted to go this way. Versus when you roll the cruiser back and forth, it doesn't want to. It barely wants to move. It just wants to stay where it is. You know what I mean? Like that's how the difference I
makes sense.
felt.
Yep.
So we asked about the name of the episode was "Don't Be a Squid" and bad riding habits. And
Yeah,
Scott,
you never defined what a squid was.
I'll make sure we do that for the audience. So a squid is kind of like the most analogous word I can think of would be something like a poser, but not so much a poser in that this is somebody who's out not just talking about it, they're out there doing it. And in motorcycle parlance, it tends to lean more towards people who are on sports bikes. But this, I've got a picture up. I don't know if you guys can see it in the window here, but it shows a picture of what a guy looks like who's a squid, and it's got t-shirt going back up. And let's see if where is the window here? So temp squids, t-shirt, temp tag, sneakers, shorts, and no idea what the yellow line is for.
Right.
I'll show you another example. Here's one. This is no offense to the ladies, but I like this one, the Louis Vuitton fairing on this bike. And what's probably, if you can't see this, what's besides everything else that's wrong with this picture, what's interesting about this bike is that that is not a small motorcycle. Like the motorcycles we're talking about, that's probably a bike
There's
that.
the rider, Jay.
Yeah, but that bike probably weighs. Oh, here we go. Here's another good one. So we won't leave the the cruisers out of it. So here's the guy's got the Tivas on.
Oh, that guy's got gym teacher shorts.
Yeah, you notice though, this is a really good illustration. See that big V twin's only sitting like, what is that? Probably like 6-8 inches off the ground there. So that's much lower center of gravity. So yeah, these are some squid examples.
I don't know a lot, Jay, but
This
I
one's my
remember
favorite
riding
though.
with my dad. And my dad would always make us wear like full jeans, full shoes, and something with long sleeves.
Mike,
It doesn't matter what time of year.
Mike, I'm really glad you made this episode, because when I first started, I don't know if it was, when I first started writing, and I won't get this exactly verbatim, Mike, although I could probably find the email, but you said something along the lines of, and I'm just paraphrasing, but riding, in the sun down the road in a t-shirt feels great until you fall off your bike.
Yeah.
He said,
Right?
because and that you wish you were wearing a jacket. So, and I was, and he's right.
That was from experience.
Yeah.
I actually I've been very lucky. I've only laid down my bike once in all the years I've been riding, and I happen to have done it like a block from my house, just starting. And my fault. I was going a little fast down this neighborhood street, made the turn, and they were doing some construction. There was a lot of dirt on the road. So the bike kind of slid a little bit when I made the turn. So I was off my line. And now I'm heading into oncoming traffic on the road I was making the right onto. So I actually leaned the bike so far over to make my turn that I actually put my mufflers on the ground and took the back tire off the road.
Oh, wow.
And slid right into the side of the car I was trying to avoid.
Oh.
So there I am wearing jeans, a t-shirt, got my helmet, and used my arms to keep my head from hitting the ground. And all I kept doing is, "Oh shit, he's dead, he's dead." Right?
I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not dead. I'm waiting for somebody to pick my pocket.
This is not a Monty Python.
I know,
episode.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not dead yet.
So
I'm not
like,
dead.
We're only laughing because we know how it turned out. It's all right.
Yeah, people are
like,
going
just
through
pick
your
the bike
stuff.
off. Yeah, I was like, just pick the bike up. So they picked the bike off me, and man, I had road rash on my arms from the blacktop. Now I probably only slid like 15 feet, right? But and the car had a big black tire mark all down his white Toyota, and I was like, "Oh man!" So the guy was like, "Oh no," he felt bad. I'm bleeding, He's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It'll buff out." It was, no dents. I'm like, "Oh, thanks." I got the bike up and got it restarted. I got home, checked. My insurance actually expired 2 days before, which I didn't know.
Oh, wow.
And I spent like the next 3 days sitting in bathtubs full of cold water to take care of the burn from the road rash.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that hurt worse than the cuts. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, should have just put my helmet down and covered my arms.
Yeah.
But,
You're-
that's not reflex. Reflex is to protect your head. You always put your arms out.
But let's go down. Let's go. I'm gonna go to Jay, then I'm gonna go back to you, Mike. Jay.
Yeah.
First time you dropped the bike.
Yes.
Describe it.
So I made this is a good new rider mistake. I was geared up. It was cold, and I will admit to, just as a sidebar, I always wear a vest of some kind. But in the summer here, I've gone, sleeveless. I'll have leather gloves, but open up bare arms, which I know is a risk.
Sun's out, guns out.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. You know what I mean. But at any rate, so that's dumb, but it's a calculated risk. Either I'm not. I understand what's at stake, but when my first time I dropped the bike was at night. And Mike, you haven't heard this story. I was on the way to bike night Thursday night, and I got to a intersection, and I'm turning left at this intersection. I have a left-hand turn signal to turn an arrow, and there's also traffic that's coming the other direction. And as often is the case, when I got my turn left signal and started to go, the car going the other direction ran the light. So they had a red light, but some people just think it means it's their turn to go, and they take off. and go anyway. Now in a car, what usually happens is, you know, you beep at the person, you both look at each other, and on you go. But on a motorcycle, it's, you know, like if I see a car coming at me, and I have it on video, I got to the point where I realized I don't think this guy's going to stop. So I made the new rider mistake of, instead of using my rear brake and stopping that way, or punching it, I guess, and trying to get out of there,
You grabbed your front.
yeah,
brake.
I hard locked the front brake, stopped, and tipped over immediately like a tree. Now, and I have this on video too. I fell down in front of the car. I mean, the guy clearly ran the light. People stopped. They were coming around there, and the guy drove around me and drove away. I picked up my bike. I was in the middle of a fucking intersection, cars everywhere. I squat down, picked up my bike, and I was yelling at the guy to get out of the car. And eventually, he drove away, and people were checking on me. I got back on my bike, drove around. I was pulling into the place to meet the riding club I ride with, and they were around back, and they helped me shake it off a little bit. And I will tell you what saved my bike. And I'll tell you physically what little minor scritches I had, but what saved my bike was that same day I had put a $12 eBay license plate frame on my bike that had like my Instagram thing on it, and I have the flip out frame on the side that comes off like right by the back shock, and it basically worked like an auxiliary kickstand, because between the engine bars in the front and that license plate frame, it stopped in my leg and me. It stopped my bike from, I didn't lose any tail lights or controls or anything like that, but busted my watch and scraped up my leg and had a few bruises and felt, really fucking stupid.
So what did you learn from that experience?
Well, the first thing I learned was you can't hard stop. I learned this in reading Proficient Motorcycling and the courses I took. I did exactly what you're not supposed to, which is I panicked and I hard squeezed the front brake at a slow speed, which is a major slow speed maneuvering no-no. I appreciated the gear and everything that I was wearing, and I was glad that I was wearing it when I fell. And I also realized that you have to approach driving a motorcycle differently at so many different levels in a car than I've even realized. And it's not just the obvious things we've talked about. It's that, when you negotiate an intersection like that, your emergency plan B can't be the same thing it is in a car, because you can't just stop like that in a motorcycle, because you'll fall the fuck over.
Remember one of the things that we talked about or say about is always you have to scan. You always have to keep scanning left, right, like the way we cross any intersection.
Yeah.
So we don't just look 2 times, we look like umpteen times to make sure. And like you said, if you're approaching it and you're in control and you're looking in the area you want to go to, and remembering that at a slow speed, if you by chance happen to take that right brake and grab it, that bike will just lock and tip over.
Yeah, and I that's, this is, so when we talk about bad or don't be a squid, and the subtext of this is bad riding habits, a squid is really is this an all-purpose motorcycle term that talks about somebody who is clearly not prepared to be out doing what they're doing. And when it comes to what gear you want to wear, and do you want to wear, fully all the gear all the time, or are you somebody, who, whatever, that's your personal decision. And I've heard people on both sides of the spectrum make very informed discussions. And as far as I'm concerned, if you've given it the right amount of thought, then that's your prerogative. And like you see these people in this picture here, they got a few things going on wrong here probably. But what, we talked about road rash, and Carlos and Mike and Scott, for your benefit, this is maybe a little gruesome, but here's what I learned about bad riding habits and gear, is that the things that hit the ground first are your hands and your feet, and your arms, your appendages, things like that you are naturally, and that explains why the riding course I went to, they explained all the science behind that. So if you go out and look at and there's plenty of it out there, if you, like, I googled one time, like, something about riding sneakers or something like that. I just googled, like, is there such a thing as riding sneakers? And as many videos and pictures of torn up feet appear as there are products that people are trying to sell. So like the don't ride with these on your feet movement is just as strong as the ride with ease on your feet. So that's
Scott,
like,
I don't want you with any flip flops.
yeah, no flip flops.
I got it.
Hand, gloves are the
I'm
same
learning.
thing. Head, the guy who, and I'll let Carlos, Mike, you guys respond in a minute. The guy, one of the instructors from my my California safety course, he had a full face helmet, and like he had a vinyl wrap, I imagine, that was on the helmet, like professionally done. And what it was all broken into sections, like sectioned off, like you would see like a side of a cow or something with what cuts of meat it is. And inside all these sections were percentages, and it was what is the impact percentage for when in motorcycle accidents where people's head hit. And naturally, like 90% of the impact zone is in the front, making the case for a full face helmet, and there's much less elsewhere, blah, blah, blah. But that was something I thought that was like really in your face. It was an interesting way to communicate it.
Let me comment about
Yeah.
in my 40 plus years of riding, I only had one bad accident. I can't say I had the road rash, but I'm going to use my example because clothing saved me.
How so?
And the reverse, well, I was riding with two other guys. I was the lead ride, leading two other riders behind me to an event. We were on the Long Island Expressway. We know how safe that is, right, Mike? Long Island
Yeah.
Expressway.
LIE, baby!
Yeah, LIE all the way.
Probably the best road would be the BQE.
Yeah.
So then I was connecting with Long Island with the Cross Island Expressway. So, and of course you have people that suddenly.
Can I wait a second?
"Oh,
I gotta stop you here for a minute. Sorry for the swear words. It's a family show, or not? But
It is?
Long Island. Every road in Long Island has a name that's not a number. They all have numbers assigned to them, but they're all referred to by names. And if you're not from New York, they're like, yeah, just take the Cross Island to the Upper Island to the Lower Island, and you're out there, and it's like the signs are all in numbers, and it's like, how the fuck am I supposed to know what any of these mean?
Oh, right.
Continue.
495.
I'm sorry.
Westbound 495. GCP all the way. Okay.
I'm just saying, this is one
It's
thing
true.
advantage
This is
where I like Connecticut was the other place I lived most of my life, and Connecticut said it weird too. This is the one thing I give California, or one advantage on. It's the 5, the 805, and it's the numbers, and I get that. And they all have names, and nobody knows what they are.
What about the Pacific Coast Highway?
That's PCH. Yeah, that's
See,
different.
Look at, did you hear what you just said?
What, PCH?
PCH, if it wasn't for Scott,
The
clarifying
PCH is a lot like the Strip in Vegas. It exists mostly in people's minds now. It's more like a chopped up section of road that I took when I lived in Torrance, just south of LA. I rode the PCH to work every day from Redondo Beach to El Segundo.
Can I tell you how my clothing helped
Yes,
me?
go ahead. Sorry, I thought New York roads. That was my bad.
I don't have a way to mute Jay, unfortunately, Carlos, so it's good of you to step up.
I'd like to make a request.
I think you actually do, and I'm going to take that away now because I might have given you guys all God mode on this.
What happened in there? I was cut off.
Okay.
And it was either go over the concrete wall and go over the wall. It was either go onto traffic that was going to run me down. So basically, brake hard, but brake so hard that I flew. My body went over the handlebars,
Ooh.
and I was thrown like about
Like straight forward or like a high side kind of flip thing?
straight forward.
Okay.
Straight forward. And I noticed as I went forward, then I went to the right, the bike went to the left. The two guys were behind me blocking to make sure. I landed in a perfect 4-point posture on my back.
Cat?
Like,
Oh, wait,
like,
no, cats
like,
land on their feet. Never mind.
yeah, well, on my back. And everybody ran over, and I'm looking up, and they're saying, "Are you okay?" And being a New Yorker with a weird sense of humor, I would look up at all these people around me. I said, "I'm glad I have you here for this meeting." And the guy says, "This effing guy is all right." Point is, when I stood up, there was no broken bones, there was no shoulder dislocated, no. But what I noticed, the road rash on my leather jacket, heavy leather jacket, I noticed the road rash scraping on my boot. I had leather chaps on, and there was a scrape on that, and on the helmet there was some road rash there. So I was able to still, I be protected with all that, and that was a good point, a case in point that physically I had heavy duty clothing on, which I feel in that point made a big difference.
For sure.
But now to the stupid mistake that we were saying about stupid. Imagine you're the safety officer, you're leading a ride, you tell everybody to park, and what do? You forget to put the kickstand down properly, and as you get off the bike is coming with you.
Oh no.
As you get off the bike and the bike follows you. And of course, that was a stupid mistake because you don't finish until the kickstand is completely down, everything is locked. Then you slowly get off of it without being embarrassed in front of the chapter.
Yeah, I think I have to one thing to mention on my I can bring it up. I was looking for it. I want to get us back to a couple of physical, in addition to gear do's and don'ts. In particular, some foot and hand stuff that I want to make sure we get to on this episode. But I was trying to find the video because I started screaming at the dude that ran the light, and I was like, I was pointing at the parking lot. I was cussing him up one side and down the other, and the person just took off. And I had the whole thing on video, as I keep mentioning, and because of the lights, it was at night, and as the car goes by, you can see the license plate, but it's lit up. Like the reflective quality of the license plate works against me here, and that it's so bright that you can't see any of the letters or numbers on it. You just see like what the light looks like behind me here with the on-air sign because it's too. So I wasn't able to see it. But somebody made the point to me afterwards because I was wearing like a vest with patches and stuff on it, and screaming like a maniac and cursing that maybe I scared the person and they just drove off and felt it would be safer to take their chances with a hit and run than the screaming guy in a leather vest and swinging a helmet around in the intersection. But anywho, so maybe I should have been a little nicer in that case, I guess.
So Scott, we got you got $5,000 to spend. We think we got you a 750cc bike. I think, guys, we can figure that he would probably be a kind of a cruiser kind of guy or a general purpose.
I would see Scott more like on a standard style, like an Indian or something like that. That's not necessarily, more of a standard, somewhere between that and like a BMW. What do you guys think?
Yeah, he's a kind of BMW kind of guy.
Yep. Well, remember, I'm going to spend $4,000 on chaps.
Of course.
So we're only got $1,000 left to work with here.
Oh, but the ribbing you're going to receive after you wear those chaps will be priceless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoops.
Yeah, totally worth it. Yeah.
All the Village People songs that are going to come up is all your friends.
Yeah.
Because I've had chaps. I think anybody that has chaps have all been through that.
Yes.
Okay, where's the Indian? Where's the cop? Macho.
Yeah.
Do I get them with fringe on them or no fringe?
Any way you want it, Scott.
Okay, right.
In fact, if you want to walk around naked with your chaps on, knock yourself out.
Yeah, I throw a pair of long johns on.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, we got you with the cruiser. We got you with the under 5,000.
Yeah, my assless chaps. Yep.
Now we know, guys, from the rest of us, 5,000. What kind of
pink Louis Vuitton fairing?
Yeah. No. How many miles you think is? That's where it's going to be like anything buying a car, there, Scott.
Sure.
How many miles? If the thing is, you could probably buy a guy that's got umpteen thousands of miles on it, and you figure, oh, that's all that my money's going to get worth, Or you could be lucky out that guy, he needs the money real fast, It's not going to be, and you're hoping that when you get that bike, you bring a buddy like us, that says, you know what, I saw this looks pretty cool, and now, we help you try to see there's no rust, it doesn't look like it's dinged, it hasn't been dropped and all that. And now you sounded like before you had all the gear. You got boots, you got heavy duty boots, you got jeans, heavy duty. You got jeans there. You got long sleeve shirts. You need a helmet. We could end up discussing that to no end. Jay, you've been riding with a full face, right?
Yes.
And Mike, you too, the same thing with full face, right?
Always a full face.
Full face, yeah. I had full face. I'm a 3/4 kind of guy, So that's 3/4. But again, it's what you got. One of the things I was
Which is the quarter that's exposed, though?
right
Your
there.
face, right? Isn't that the most important part?
The one you see with, that's it.
It's
All right,
funny.
so I got a good helmet. All right.
You got a good helmet. You got gloves. You got a long sleeve shirt. You're ready. Now you said
Don't
before
forget my
you
chaps.
Yep, yeah, you got your chaps there.
Yep.
Now you're ready to ride. You want to ride by yourself? You want to ride with a group?
I'm probably gonna by myself.
Okay.
I would definitely recommend a lot of seat time on your own before you rode in a group.
Yeah.
And
Just
Mike, why do you
because
say that?
you're-
Because some people might think that the conventional logic would be the other way around. Why do you?
No, I think.
And
you're
I agree with
better
you.
off- I think you're better off you ride on your own, at your own pace, at your own time. You'll need to practice the clutch and the friction starting and stopping on hills. You need to do all of that and be comfortable with it, and be able to repeat it and be satisfied with your own ability before you ride with other people who have much more experience than you, because not every group is going to back off to the weakest rider.
Right.
They should, and most do, or they take into consideration. But guys that have been riding for a long time are not looking in the mirror, they're looking forward.
Yeah.
And they expect that you're going to be there, and they're not thinking that you're not going to be there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Worrying
Mhm.
about
And
other
then-
people gives me anxiety too. I
And
can't even,
not
I can't even
only
use the
that-
drive-through. I don't like that. I
Not-
don't
not
want.
only
I don't want
that,
people
but-
waiting on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not only that, but I always tell people when they ride for the first time with a group that are relatively new, I'm like, don't let them push you into riding more than you can.
Right.
Stay within your ability.
Ride your own ride.
because If they're going faster than you're comfortable with, don't push beyond your limit of comfort to stay with them. And if you have to cut them loose, you can always turn around and go back. You know, you're not lost.
Which one of the bad habits that I posted there was riding. Mike is saying, and Jay's agreeing, riding at your limits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always
That's-
ride your
and you
own
don't-
ride, and you
And you don't know what your limits are because you're learning how to ride.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Jay,
So
do you
like,
remember?
one,
Jay,
one of the things I'll tell you, when I laid down my bike, that messed up my head big time. So I could ride, I could make left turns just fine, but to make a right turn, I needed like a 3-lane highway because I didn't want to lean the bike over and make a normal turn because I crashed. you
Right.
know, and
Right.
I hurt myself, and I had to fight through. It took me a long time of going out, and I used to go out at night because in the city traffic is usually bad, but at night it's always light. And I forced myself back into making those turns the way they should be done, and realizing like I can do that again. You know what I mean?
sure.
So
It's
yeah,
gotta
I
be
had
hard to be
I
able
had
to only get home taking left turns, right?
Yeah, I've done it
exactly.
before
You know,
though.
like I mean, really, when I made after that, like when I would make a right turn, I made wide right turns.
Yeah, I'm glad you
And it's like-
mentioned all this. This was, I'm glad that we talked about this mental thing. First of all, learning to ride by yourself before you ride in a group, because I think most people that are new to anything would think, well, shouldn't you go be with a group before, so you can benefit from that? I think with riding, it really is the opposite. You need to be all the things that Mike mentioned before you go and try to do the thing with other people. And Scott, to your point, I am, as social person as I am, I also enjoy solitude, and I like to get out and be by myself, and I don't like to impose upon other people or have expectations or strings, so it lends to going off on your own. The flip side of that is when you are able to go ride in a group, it is incredibly rewarding. And if you've ever watched a movie or have been outside in real life and been fortunate to see a group of 10 or 15 or 20 people on motorcycles go thundering by, it is even cooler when you're on the motorcycle doing it than so it's worth it to ride in groups. It's definitely and Mike, I'm glad you mentioned the getting in your head, kind of getting the yips, and for what it's just as a to relate to that, when I first started not riding but learning to surf, I got stung by a stingray. And in addition to wondering as an adult, learning to do something as an adult is different than as a kid because you have a sense of fear. So now not only am I somewhat worried about, the 6-foot waves crashing down on me, but you're also looking out at this vast ocean, and once you get bit by something, knowing there's anything out here all the time. And it took a long time for me to like not be in a sheer panic from the moment I stepped in the water. You know, I was paddling on my board in this much water because I was afraid to step on a stingray again, and it took a long time for me to forget that. So
Yeah, and I want to learn my limitations on my own.
yeah,
to Mike's
that's
point.
yeah,
Jay,
exactly.
do you remember the day after I got my driver's license, I went with you
Yes.
and your family to Rhode Island, and I had to follow your mom.
Yes.
We were passing people in the breakdown lane. We were driving over the grass. I was
Yeah.
way out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I didn't, have an accident because
Yeah.
I wasn't experienced with any of that stuff, and I was terrified the whole time. And that was in a car,
Yeah.
a truck. I don't want to do it on a motorcycle.
Yeah, I hadn't
I'm gonna
thought
go
about
at
that.
11
I hadn't
p.m.
thought
There's
about that in a
nobody on
while.
the
That's a
road,
good
I'm
one.
gonna figure things out on my own.
Yeah,
that's
That's
my
exactly, yeah.
personality.
Jay, when going back to you, Jay, I remember when you and I had talked, and you had been riding alone by yourself. You were out there, like following what Mike had said. You were out there exploring. You were getting your feet wet, and then you mentioned to me, said, I'm gonna do a charity, or I'm gonna do an event,
Yeah.
a big run. And I remember saying to you, "Are you ready for that? Be aware." You were ready to make that jump from
Yeah.
the solo ride to then. I said, "Be careful. Be aware that these, like Mike had already said, that these people, it's like herding cats. It's once the stampede gets going, every man for himself. So especially at a charity event, if it's escorted, not escorted, and you made that leap.
Yeah.
And to you, Mike, I give you a lot of credit, because the biggest thing that anybody after an accident is, we always say, you got to get back in the saddle.
Yeah, and I was nervous on that charity event. I was nervous the whole time. Like the kind of nerves you get about not wanting to make a mistake or whatever. And the run that Carlos is talking about, Mike, this was the San Diego Toys for Tots, which is like the largest run in San Diego County of the year, and it's several hundred bikes. Before we leave, we're in this town El Cajon, which is like northeast of San Diego. And they've got us lined up on the street, 4 bikes deep, in diagonal lines for like 4 city blocks, before they release you. And you go from this place. We rode to Del Mar, which is a racetrack on the coast here. So I was nervous to make a long story short. I was nervous as hell, even all the way up there. But I tell you, man, when we came over the hill on the highway down towards the racetrack, and this is a spot in Southern California where now you're looking over the highway, you can see the ocean, and you're descending down into this beautiful beach area where the racetrack is, and you're on a highway, and there's motorcycles snaked out in front of you as far as you can see, and behind you as far as you can see. It is fucking cool. So that is why it's worth riding in a group.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it can be a lot of fun. I've only done one large organized charity run. I usually forget or don't know about them until after I see them going by me in the car, and I'm like, missed another one.
After you see somebody wearing a T-shirt, damn it!
Right, but even like that one actually ended up a real crap show, because there was they said 500 bikes. I'm gonna say more like 300 bikes. Police escorted for a little while, and we all,
which is a big deal.
Yeah, which we started up. We were like a mob of bikes going up Route 9, which is like a major road here. And all 3 lanes, just motorcycles. Cops closed all the crossroads. People were like, wow. But the further we went up, the more we thinned out. And we lost our police escort. And we had a couple of guys that were outriders that were closing intersections for us. And then we kind of thinned out and ended up in groups. And then it started raining. And a lot of people don't like riding in the rain. So, like, some people would turn off, and like 20 guys would follow them, thinking they were going where they're supposed to be going. Meantime, they just want to pull over and get out of the rain. And then the group gets spread out even more, and then it's like, you get stuck behind people that are doing like 30, and you're like, oh, we can go a little, but the group's leaving. I don't know where I'm going. I'm following the group, And it ended up being really bad. And then the couple of guys I went with, when we got to the midpoint, they were like, yo, we're going to go back, because this is like a real crap show. I mean, and once we got further up, guys were like blowing stop signs, they're blowing lights. I'm like, nobody up here knows what we're doing.
Yeah.
Now we look like a bunch of morons going through red light.
Yeah.
At least when we started, we had a reason to go through red lights and stop signs because we were escorted. Now we're just a mob of bikes doing dumb things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
breaking
yeah.
traffic laws and yeah.
Yeah.
We in New York City, we have our annual Bikers Against Breast Cancer, which our chapter has been doing it for the last 25 years.
How many bikes you
And-
think are in it?
Well, we hit our peak one time when it was 1,000.
Jesus, that's
Yeah,
a lot.
But we've been averaging about in the 500 capacity. What I say to that is, it all goes into the organization and a good control with the police. We were very lucky with the New York City Police Department that they at least 15 motorcycle police officers, and as well as 2 police cars and tail and lead. So we tell people to come and join us.
Yeah.
And they warn you, say you will be in 2x2. You will be in a staggered formation. You will not pass each other. And so now you're on the busiest highways and expressways of New York City, and you don't give a crap
Yeah.
because everybody else is cursing you out, but you're there saying, I'm with them.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
with
cool.
them,"
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, we did not have that.
Yeah.
Scott, I'm gonna throw something else at Scott. So Scott, you just got this, I'm gonna say vanilla bike.
Sure.
Okay, vanilla cruiser. Now I'm gonna throw it at Jay and Mike because there are 3 things that you want to customize it, and these 3 next topics,
Yes.
that part about your bike is very debatable and arguable only because of the individual's personality. Number 1, and I think Jay and I had talked about, Mike and I had talked about, do you have a windshield or a fairing on the bike?
Yes.
Is a yes over there? Mr.
Well,
Mike?
to be clear, when I say fairing, I would say windshield. When I say fairing, I'm not talking about engine
Yeah,
fairing.
not like a
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
What I mean by, to Scott's benefit, what happens is that now you got this bike, and you will eventually learn that bugs like to hit your body. Little rocks might hit your body, and unless you like the occasional bug that gets into your helmet and rattles around, you may not like it. Or you may find that you're resisting the wind. And there's those train of thoughts. They either love it or they hate it. So it depends on if you want to be macho and cool and think you're tough, or whether you want to be practical and you say, I want to enjoy the ride. So fairing or some sort of protective covering in the front of it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Carlos. If I was just gonna ride this bike to the store and back, it's a little round town thing. It doesn't seem like a windscreen would be that big a deal. But if I'm going to be riding for hours and hours, would it make a giant difference?
Yes.
To not have that wind constantly blowing on me?
My opinion is
I would
yes.
have to ask that to Jay. See, because Jay learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
That he was holding on for dear life and realizing, if I put something in front of me, I may not be as tired
Yeah.
or the wind blasting me. So there's those who will think that a fairing or some sort
Yeah,
of
it makes highway riding, and this is a couple of habit things too. It makes highway riding, and it's your preference. Obviously, everybody's different,
right.
but it makes highway riding more bearable. It also, there are sort of immediate things that a windshield does, which it protects you from objects and things like Carlos mentioned. It also helps you alleviate fatigue from fighting the wind, so especially if you're on a cruiser, your whole body is basically sitting upright like this, so you're just catching wind. And what ends up happening, I noticed this, I've mentioned this to you guys before, there's an 8-mile strip between where I live in like my town neighborhood and Coronado. And it's like the bay on one side, the ocean on the other. It's a great ride to go up and down. But I noticed like my head starting to feel heavy as I would get towards the end of it, and that was my neck trying to keep my head up like this. And in 8-10 miles you're tired, and that's not helpful. So it really does wear on you after a while.
Is it louder without a windscreen as well? The
No.
relative wind?
Oh, yeah, I
It's
don't think
actually-
it's any different. Yeah.
Okay.
With the correct windshield, it's a little quieter. But the windshield, there's pros and cons. Like my first 2 bikes didn't have windshield. This bike I have now, I got a windshield, but it's too small for me because I'm tall. So the windshield placement is very important because
Doesn't that blow it right in your face then?
Yeah, it can buffet the hell out of you.
You
Yeah.
want to be able to look like just above the windshield. You want just the air to hit like just above,
Okay,
and then
yeah.
it kind of helps blow the rain off or whatever, but if it's too low, it hits you right in the face, and you're like, it's
Yeah,
like a
be like
wind tunnel.
be like
Yeah.
you and me riding in a Miata with the top down. And, both
And if
our
it's
heads
too
sticking out the
high, and it
top.
can cause it causes the wind actually to, like, if you can see my hand, it'll come over, like in a drawing, it will come over your head, and then what
Right.
happens is it whips back like an eddy around your head, and it almost sounds like somebody's smacking you in the back of the head with a belt. It's like you get like this buffeting, like whap whap. You're like, what the fuck is that? It's the wind whipping you in the head.
See,
Okay.
I took my windshield off because it was beating my head up. It was the biggest one I could get from Kawasaki. It's not big enough because I sit very tall. It is good. There are pros and cons to windshields as well. If it's cold and you're cold, you can duck down way low behind the windshield to get out of the wind. It kind of warms you up a little bit. But also, a windshield, depending on gusts of wind from the side, can act like a sail
Yes.
Oh,
and
okay, yeah, that
turn
makes a lot of
your
sense.
handlebars and like make the bike do things like you have to pay attention. If you're not paying attention, all of a sudden the handlebars could jerk on you because the wind came the other way. It caught that glass
Yeah.
and acted like a sail.
And riding here too, and where I am, you're in and out of canyons and like these, just they're not necessarily canyons, but just like all these little ravines and stuff. And all of a sudden, the wind direction, you come around a corner and you get a crosswind because you're popping out between, in a little valley or something like that, and it's like you're blown halfway across the
can
highway.
affect the steering. It can
Right.
affect the steering on the bike.
Yeah.
When I lived in Florida, you'd drive across the causeways or the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, and you'd have such a crosswind that it's pulling your car out of the lane. I can't even imagine with what you're describing here,
Yeah.
because I mean, I'm terrified just thinking about it.
Yeah, we'll get on that. I was
Cancel the
telling you about
Ducati.
that strip of road that I drive on. The first time I got the nerve to go on that on my sports bike, and I was really getting up to speed. And this was, early on in my riding, stretching my range and learning to go faster. And I'm flying down that road now, and I'm feeling like, and again, it is like now that the Kenny Loggins is starting to play in my head because I'm like, Top Gun, like I'm fucking Maverick. I'm flying down the road like that, and then I do this. I turn my head to look at the beach, and when your head is up above the fairing or windshield, and it's as big as mine with a helmet on, and you turn it sideways, it's like throwing the rudder of the boat like that. I'm like, whoa, don't
Not
do
only
that.
But try driving at full speed and lift the visor up.
Oh,
get
shit,
over there,
right?
and you
Yeah.
want your head come up when the wind gets caught in the visor.
Yeah, and you're like pulling you off. I sent Carlos a video last night that I saw. There are a dime a dozen on Instagram with a guy getting plinked. So it was the video. Scott is facing him and Mike like this. So you're watching the guy riding, and he's going along, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, object hits him in the mask, and there goes his visor behind him. But
Scott,
Yes, sir.
the second thing. So we talked about the fairing. All right.
Yep.
Now you protected. That's a personal choice. Whether you heard the pros and cons, depending upon you're windy, not windy, protection, fatigue. These are things. Number two, very debatable, arguable point. Music. Do you like music?
oh, good question.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would
Now-
definitely want the music in there.
See, and there you'll get the purist to say, "Nah, I like the sound." And then there's those, "No, I want to hear my my Spotify. I want to hear my."
I can feel the sound. I want
Yes,
to hear the music and feel the.
Yeah.
the-
And in that configuration, there is there's very debatable about solo, the sound in your head, or the sound in there, and any number of devices that you can strap on and
Yeah.
use your cell phone. And the last one I'm going to put in there, it's also another very arguable point, is GPS.
Hmm.
GPS at that name now technology's gotten better, but there'll be guys, "No, I want to explore the roads. I want to just take me where the road takes me, and I don't care where I end up. I'll figure it out." Versus, "No, make a left on 495." Yeah.
Yeah,
got
I
lost
think
coming
if
over
you're
Target.
only
I don't need any of that. I would do all that on my phone though that you're talking about. I would have the directions. I would have the music. and
Right.
Probably some sort of Bluetooth. In my
I
ear or
recently
something.
took this plunge. I bought myself a Sena Bluetooth thing for Christmas and the helmet. So it's got, and it is, and And I had heard as many polarizing opinions as Carlos mentioned about, yeah, you should have music or don't or whatever. But what I think, and you guys, tell me, Mike, Carlos, what you think. But from what my experience is that the overwhelming majority of riders that I've encountered have Bluetooth audio systems of one kind or another in their helmets, and they use them, for GPS, audio, and communications, and usually, all three of those, be they phone communication or mesh, like, as you're with other riders so you can talk to each other. So I think, what's different is they're not earbuds, like they're not in your ear so you can't, like it's like in your helmet. And the reality is if you're on I've got a pretty loud exhaust on my bike too, so if you're roaring down the highway, even if you got that thing full tilt, it's not distractingly loud, I guess is the only way I can. And if it's music, you can't really focus on it. So to a certain extent, there are people, like, you can buy aftermarket speakers that supposedly are better quality than what comes with a stock Sena setup. But I've started, and where I was going with this before is, if you're going to ride a bike just for the hell of it and go around, you don't care where you go, then don't have you don't need GPS. But if my bike is, I don't have a car, right? So if your bike is your everyday driver and you need to get to places, like your kid's game starts at 3:30 and it's important that you're there, then you need to know where the fuck you're going, right? So it's helpful not to have to stop and pull over and pull your phone out to look. I don't look at my phone either at the map. I mean, you can look down and see it. It's helpful to have the ear reminder. I don't know, Mike, what do you think?
Most of the guys that I know don't use music when they ride.
Okay.
The guys that, it seems like the guys that listen to music are the guys on the full dressers with the speakers built into the fairing and the handlebars, and most of the other guys not. Sometimes I know a couple of people that are couples, they might have a little intercom system when they ride, and again, they're on full dressers, they're not on regular bikes. I guess it really doesn't matter listening to music or not. I think what matters more is that you're not blocking your hearing or
distracted,
and being distracted where you're forgetting to look around.
Okay.
Right. You got it, because with the music you may not hear what's going. You may not hear somebody next to you. And granted, wind noise is loud anyway, and exhausts are loud, but you still have the ability to hear like a horn or tires squeak. You whereas if you get wrapped up in the music, you may not be looking around like you should be.
Yeah, and this is a really good new rider point. Mike and Carlos, you probably have forgot. This may be too far back in the past for you to remember, but as a newer rider, one of the things that seems obvious, but if you're older and you're learning how to ride, and you're somebody who's been in a car for all your life, and that's more than just a few years, being out in the elements is completely different than being inside of a car. And the first thing one of the things that I had to get used to was the sounds are overwhelming at first, and they're fucking terrifying too. Like if you're just like, in traffic and you're like trying to get used to shit, and all of a sudden a truck that you didn't see, releases its air brakes next to you, and you're here like what the fuck was that? Like you got to get, like, now I don't hear that stuff the same way. Like, either my brain has filtered out the white noise and I hear like the sounds that I think I must hear, that I need to hear. But the first couple months, man, the sounds really scare the shit out of you sometimes.
Yeah, they can be overwhelming, and you're better off. I always tell like people, when you start riding, you should always assume that every day you ride, somebody's looking to hit you.
Yeah.
And you just don't know who or what car they're going to be in, or truck. But every day it's going to be there. So you need to look and keep an eye out, even when you stop at a red light, right? And like a lot of guys will put it neutral, rest their hands, take it off. I don't take my bike out of gear and relax until I know the guy behind me has stopped and the guy behind him has stopped at least.
Yeah.
Because I have been in situations on the LIE where we hit traffic and traffic all slammed up, and I looked in my mirror, saw this guy wasn't stopping. I shot off onto the shoulder by the wall, and the guy in front of me got hit.
Yeah.
I would have got crushed between the two cars.
Yeah, you got to be ready to move at a moment's notice.
Yeah, everybody's looking to run you over, and then you never have a problem. They're not going to stop at the stop sign. They're not going to stop at the traffic light. They're not going to stop behind you until they do. And until then, you always make sure you know where you're going to go and your bike is in gear. And then when you know you're safe, you can let it out of gear, stretch your fingers a little,
And
and then start back up again.
And it also connects too to we started off talking about bad habits as far as gear is concerned. There are some things if you want to wear t-shirt or whatever, those are always people's prerogatives, but I think the right something on your feet, the right something on your head, your hands, those are the kinds of places. If you want to be naked everywhere else, that's your prerogative, but your skin will grow back, your feet won't.
Your bike setup and your gear everything should be your preference.
Right.
Shoes, sneakers, or boots. I personally don't wear boots because, well, for two reasons. One, I have really big feet, and my boots are really big, and they actually don't fit.
Right. You don't have enough
under the shifter.
Right.
Under my shifter. And when I do wear boots, for some reason, it's just me, but I get a lot of false neutrals. I'm a lazy shifter when I wear boots.
Yeah.
When I wear sneakers, I almost never have a false neutral, and I'm always in gear.
And technically, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, so it's only when I'm in boots because I can't feel the shifter through the boot.
Right.
Where I do that lazy shift, and a false neutral is when, like, you're in first gear and you want to shift up, and or you're in neutral and you want to shift up into first, and you hit it just hard enough to disengage the one gear but not make it into the other one.
I want to talk about foot position. Jay,
yeah. Can I interrupt you real quick here? We're an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, we're getting long. Thank you for.
You should probably mention our sponsor today.
Yes.
And we should probably start queuing up for what we'll carry over to the next episode because the discussion's been great.
Yeah, thank you for that. I didn't even notice the time. I got carried away in this, and so I think first of all, as a takeaway on footwear, and we probably went like boots are not necessary. Like the general guidance that I heard, and you guys may hear differently, is that you want to wear something that's over the ankle because whether it's a boot or a sneaker or whatever, it doesn't matter as much as it does that below the ankle shoes tend to pop right off when you get into some kind of it's just a thing. So they suggest having over the ankle shoes or whatever. And I'm with Mike. Mine are technically boots, but I don't have gigantic feet, but I like the touch. I don't like feeling like I want to be able to feel that shifter with my toe. So definitely agree with that. And go ahead.
Dexterity in snow boots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
no tactile. I gotcha.
Yeah, and so we talked about a lot of the gear stuff. Let's just to bring it home. We're talking about foot position, and Mike, you were talking about being able to feel the shifter or whatever. Carlos, for new riders and for all of our benefit, what is the guidance on what is the habit to as far as where you should be putting your feet as you learn how to ride? Balls, heels, what are you doing?
Yeah, you want to be flat, and I say flat on those pegs. You don't want to be having that they call duck feet, duck walk, where your toes are flaring out. That's it.
Yeah. I've been waiting all day to use that sound effect. I saw whack in the show notes.
And you don't want to have your feet that a lot of people relax with your feet out, especially new riders. You don't want to get those bad habits.
Right.
So you want to be flat on those feet. I mean, when I took a class on it, they want you to be flat on your feet on those pegs, because you want to have that maneuverability. You don't want to be tipping over or scraping your feet on the road. And that's crucial. One thing I want a takeaway is, like, when you're learning how to ride, you really have to scan. You have to look ahead. You have to see far ahead. And it was referenced before about having a plan, an exit road. And all this is all part of that experience of just before you go out there, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride. Go and do those little 5 miles around the neighborhood type of things. If it needs to go on local streets or in a street that's not very popular, do that. Get that time in on it. And one last thing I want to probably and we're going to get back to Scott's bike. Assuming that Scott's bike has got nothing on, so vanilla cruiser, nothing. One of the things I always try to recommend, and I think I did it with you, Jay, is an engine guard.
Yes.
An engine guard, Scott, will save you not only your body from when that bike tips over, or like this, it just, even if you by accident forgot to put your kickstand down, that engine guard will actually, if done right, will hold it up. And the only, aside from the loss of your pride, your mirrors won't be scraped, your rear lights won't be gone, it won't, and it saves you. Now, there's those who will argue, I don't want to look, I want to look cool, but right now we're dealing with safety, and that's our theme, being safe.
Yeah,
Replacing the lights and the mirrors, that's another topic for another time.
Yeah, and I want to. So what we're going to carry over to the next episode, and is there's I want to eventually come back around to writing in groups, and we got to that topic in the last episode because it was something that seemed in the right sequence. But something we talked about here that's really important is kind of getting the yips and the things that you need to get out of your system and under your belt before you start riding with 5, 10, 20, or 100 other people. So in the next episode, I'm thinking, and we can talk about this, but I want to spend a little more time talking about where you, like what we're talking about with duck feet, and where how do you manage turns and things like that. And in particular, it's none of us like to hear it and talk about it, but most motorcycle accidents and fatalities statistically happen when people overshoot turns or fail to negotiate turns. So if you're going to do the math on what do I have to do to mitigate my risk as a rider, that seems to be an area I would focus and say, okay, you got to really bone up on navigating turns and foot and hand control and things like that. So I want to talk about that in our next episode if we could drill down, and we'll think a little bit more about that. And in particular, and I was looking for my copy of Proficient Motorcycling, which is this book that people gave me to read when I started, told me to read when I started riding. But I just, making the connection from this book to practice is something I'm struggling with a little bit. So I think we put that on the list for the next episode. What do you guys think? But I want to try something here too. Let's see if this is. We talked before about. Let's see if we can get this to actually work. Can you guys hear that?
Yep.
All right. So this is me dropping my bike right here. So this video, it's kind of small for you guys to see it, but this is me. Here's the turn. So there's a guy runs the light. I stop, hard squeeze, and and fall over. But that was the. I'll send you that. Where is it? Stopping. Oh yeah. So this is my friends here. Help me rally. So that is this place Motorcycle Monkey in Santee that does up north of San Diego that does like coffee and bike nights, and they cook, and there's a brewery next door. I'm not a beer guy anymore, but they've got home brew and all this stuff. Three Frogs, pretty cool place. But so that was my bike dropping experience, and I can send you guys the unedited version that includes me threatening to kill the person in a Prius that ran the light. Anywho, first of all, before we wrap things up, I want to talk about Throttle Addict just for a moment. ThrottleAddict.com. That's Throttle Addict with a K instead of a C. Check it out. Use code The Dude. Save 15% and quit being a slob. I'm once again, and really, you see this. This is Throttle Addict hoodie that I'm wearing right here because it's a little chilly here, 62 degrees as a matter of fact in San Diego, which is cold. And I've got a little bit of Throttle Addict, a t-shirt there that I also like quite a bit. And Throttle Addict, the guy who designed some of their logos, actually designed our Old in the Way logo. I like the way this hoodie thing looked so much. I bought it and found out who the artist was, and he hooked us up. So ThrottleAddict.com. Use code The Dude, save 15%, stop looking like a slob. Talk to me, guys. What do you guys got going on this week? Anything exciting?
62 degrees, Carlos. I'd be running through the sprinkler if it was 62 degrees right
Yeah,
now.
right?
You do realize that Mike and I were just holding our tongues on that, considering we're, he's 62 degrees and he's cold.
So this is a new phenomenon. One of the things that's new for me as a writer is that I'm not. My writing, my weather privilege, I'm not overlooking it, because I know, like everybody that I'm friends with, you guys included, who live in the Northeast, you see lots of things on social media, like people just sitting in their garages looking at their bikes, or like opening up the garage and there's snow there, and like closing it again, or got out for a ride today and they're like look like the kid from Christmas Story, all wrapped up. So I'm aware that we're very fortunate here.
I was gonna say, I thought you were riding a bike, not a high horse. And
Yeah.
I didn't know if you needed help getting down.
Nice, very, very, very nice. Well, what do you guys? Oh, look at that! And round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
So, what do you guys have going on this week? Anything exciting you want to share, Carlos? You got up ahead this week?
Well, you know what? The big thing, my mom gets to be the big 9-0.
Whoa!
9-0 on Thursday. Let's hear applause for my mom there. Come on. Give me-
Hey.
yeah,
Round of applause for Mama Sensei. 90
Mama
years
says
old,
that
huh?
90 years, and she's still driving. And she's still.
You're kidding me.
A motorcycle at that.
Yes, yes. In fact, that's her motorcycle in my backdrop. That's hers. That's her tri-glide. She rides it with, and that's my big deal there.
What are you guys doing for anything special?
Brother's coming in from Pittsburgh, the whole family, and my sister's coming in with their kids too. So we're taking her to her favorite steakhouse place,
Nice.
wherever that is. So hope she and she'll probably steal every napkin, and because that's what little Puerto Rican ladies do. Is
Yeah.
steal every napkin and ketchup because it's there.
Sweet and low.
Creamers, yeah, the whole thing. Plastic silverware, I got it.
Yeah,
Happy
exactly.
birthday,
My
Mama.
home, I grew up with knives from Ponderosa and glasses from gas stations, so if we're familiar with that. But yeah, so that's Feliz Cumpleaños to Mama Sensei, and enjoy the festivities. Nooms, anything going on this week?
No, just waiting to wrap this up with you so I can get back to the Daytona 500. We're at lap 20 of stage 2 here.
Oh, nice. How many days till Christmas?
Ooh, probably about just about 300. We're getting
Nice.
real close on that.
All right, good. Keep us posted. Mike, you got anything exciting going on this week?
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
Just another quiet week. That's about it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel quiet is exactly good. No news is good news, right?
The older I
Yeah.
get, the quieter I want it to be each week.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, gentlemen, I thank you very much for your time as always, and I'll continue to work on the technical rigging here of the show. I really enjoy the conversation, and I like the fact that we're finding our way here. We're meandering a little bit, and I'm really enjoying the time and what I'm learning. We'll be back again on our next episode soon. I hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of your afternoons. And all the best to the families. Thanks, Pop. Thank you for Tonio and everybody who stopped by in the chat room. That's it, guys. Have a fantastic afternoon. We'll see you next time.
Be good.
Cheers, all.
Thank you.
So long, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Later.